Hi, welcome to Royd's Game Table. Today we have Game 1 of the Marvel Champions miniseries. Pull up a chair and I'll show you what it's all about. What is the Marvel Champions miniseries? Well, the Aeon Zen card game has what's called an expedition mode, where you can take the content from that game, the Nemesis and Mages, and you can create kind of a random ongoing campaign with it. You fight a certain Nemesis, a random Nemesis for game 1, and then after that you can upgrade your Mages, and you also upgrade the Nemesis. Then you move on to game 2. And the same thing after you defeat or finish game 2 or whatever happens, you can usually upgrade your Mages and upgrade the Nemesis. And you can go on, you play 4 games in a sort of campaign in a way. It's not really much of a story, but it is a way to be able to upgrade your Mages as you go on. It's a way to do kind of a campaign mode, and it works pretty well in that game. And one of the users over on Boardgamegeek has developed a mini-series for the Marvel Champions game, and the mini-series is very similar to the Aeon Zen Expedition mode that I just explained, where in the Marvel Champions mini-series that this user's created, you start off against a random villain in game 1, and then at the end of game 1 you can get some upgrades, and also the villain gets upgraded, and then you go to game 2, fight a different random villain, then game 3, game 4, so on. So it's just a way to play through a sort of campaign randomly to be able to use all the content you have, get some replayability out of it, and if you enjoy the campaign structure, it provides a campaign structure. So I want to show you the rules that this person has created, and we'll go over them, and I would give the person credit, but I don't know if he wants his name all over the internet. If he says he does, I'll be happy to give him credit. But until then, I'm going to try not to use his name. But you can go to theboardgamegeek.com and go to the Marvel Champions, find it in the forums, and find it in the files. And I may actually try to link to this mini-series if you're interested in it in the description of the video. So be looking out for that. But let me go and show you what the mini-series rules looks like. And then I'll start game 1 of the mini-series that I'm going to be filming through just to see how it works here on my channel. Okay, so here are the rules for the Marvel Champions mini-series, and we'll just go through them. You can read the paragraph on your own if you decide to do it, the top paragraph. Let's look at the mini-series setup. Each player will choose the hero they wish to play, and for me that's going to be Black Widow. And so I have to, as it says, the players can modify their decks in between scenarios, but must use the same hero for the entire campaign. So win or lose, I've got to stick with Black Widow for the entire campaign. And then it says randomly select a tier 1 scenario, and I'll show you those in a second, and randomly select modular sets to use with that scenario, or choose which modular sets to use. I'm going to randomly select the tier 1 scenario and the modular set. So on this page here, this second page, you'll see a scenario tier list here. And for tier 1, it can either be Risky Business, Wrecking Crew, or Absorbing Man. And it just so happens that I have those 3 out right here. All right, you can see Absorbing Man, Green Goblin, Risky Business, and I got Bulldozer representing the Wrecking Crew. So I'm going to randomly select them by rolling a die, and Absorbing Man will be 1 and 2, Risky Business will be 3 and 4, and Bulldozer here for Wrecking Crew will be 5 and 6. So I'm going to roll the die, and it is a 4. So that is going to be Green Goblin, Risky Business, so I'll go get the cards for him. All right, so I got the Green Goblin Risky Business cards over to the left of the sheet. You can't see it, I'll show you in a minute. But now I have to pick a modular set at random, so I'll go ahead and do that. And here are the modular sets that I can choose from. I have all the sets that are available except for the print and play one. I don't have that, and I'm not sure I ever will, but that's not really a big deal. But these are the sets, I think all the sets that are currently available in the game. So what I'm going to do is, you see some numbers there. I'm going to roll my dice again to randomly select those as well. All right, so I have a D10 and a D6. I'm going to roll these up. See what I get? And we got a 5 and a 3. So it's going to be number 8 for the modular set. And number 8 is Goblin Gimmicks. So what do you know? The one that's recommended for risky business is going to be the modular set that randomly gets chosen to go into it. So I'll go and grab that modular set. And here are all the cards that will go into the encounter deck for the Green Goblin Risky Business scenario. We've got expert cards, the standard, the Green Goblin Gimmicks modular set supposed to go in, Black Widow's Obligation, because again, I'm playing with her throughout this campaign. And then we got the Risky Business cards. All right, and so we've got everything picked out for the mini-series setup. Step 3 is record each player's chosen hero in the first scenario in the campaign log. And I'll show you that in a second. And then a handicap of 0 in the campaign log for the first scenario. So the campaign log will be on the last sheet of the paper, or the last sheet of the rules, as you can see here. So I'll put in Black Widow. And my handwriting is not that great, but whatever. And the remaining hit points obviously will be 9, because that's what she'll start off. And then down here under scenario 1, we got the modular set of Goblin Gimmicks. So I'll put that in here. And then the handicap is a 0. So I think that's everything I need to do for this first scenario. So now for scenario setup, I'm going to skip scenario setup because it's not really relevant for game 1. I'll talk about that when it is more relevant. But then I want to look at the victory. I'm going to skip most of this because obviously I haven't won a game yet. And I'll talk about that when I do win a game, or when a game is complete. And you'll see what I mean by saying when a game is complete here in a minute. But I'm not going to talk about the victories except for step 6. I do want to mention step 6. Record a handicap of 0 in the campaign log for the next scenario. The reason why the record a handicap of 0 in the campaign log is important right now, and why I want to mention it, is because you see here, defeat after losing a scenario, increase the handicap for the current scenario by 1 in the campaign log and replay the scenario. And then the end of campaign, once you win the final scenario, you have completed the campaign. Your final score is the total handicap of all 4 scenarios. Lower is better. And so obviously, the handicap has to do with your scoring on how well you do in the campaign. If you get a lower score, if you have all 0s, that means you won every game on your first try. You're going to have a score of 0, and that means you did a great job in that scenario, in that mini-series. If you end up with a score of like 4, that means you lost every game or whatever. You didn't do quite as good. So you don't want the number to be higher. So I am going to record a handicap of 0 in number 1, and I wanted to point that out so you'll know about the victory condition. And then also I wanted to mention the handicap, because it does come into play some with the modifications I'm going to make to my mini series. I'm going to be playing with the expert mode for my mini series and the increased momentum. I'm not going to do the Iron Man mode, and I don't need to worry about the substitutions for Rise of Red Skull because I have that expansion. But expert mode is very similar to the expert mode in the Rise of the Red Skull campaign, where you record each player's remaining health at the end of a scenario, and at the beginning of a scenario, set each player's health to the amount recorded in the campaign log. And each player can choose to heal to full health, but must add a random obligation from the Expert Hydra campaign set to their deck. And so that's just what you would do in an expert campaign of the Rise of Red Skull. So it's very similar here. Now the next sentence says, additionally, when playing in expert mode, do not increase your handicap when you lose a scenario. I'm not going to do that rule. I am going to increase my handicap if I lose. Scenario 1, for example, I'm going to increase my handicap to 1 for scenario 2, but I'm going to play scenario 2 as if I have a 0 handicap. In fact, I'm going to play all 4 games as if I have a 0 handicap. And so my handicap is essentially just going to be my way of keeping up with the score. So if I lose game 1, I'll put a handicap of 1, but that's just to remind me that I lost game 1. And so I'll put the handicap of 1 in game 2, and that's just going to remind me that I lost game 1. Then if I lose game 2, I'm going to put a handicap of 2 in game 3 to remind me that I lost game 2 and so forth, because I'm going to be playing the increased momentum variant here, which says instead of replaying a scenario when you lose, follow the victory instructions for the scenario and increase your handicap by 1 for the next scenario. When you win a scenario, set your handicap for the next scenario to 1 less than your current handicap. So by combining these two, I'm only going to be playing 4 games no matter what, just 4 games. And so it doesn't matter if I win or lose, I'll be doing the victory condition for each game. But what will matter is the handicap. And at the end of the 4 games, I'll know how well I do. If I score a 0, it means I won all 4 games. If I score a 3, it means I won 1 and lost 3. So that's how that'll work. And again, I don't need the Rise of Red Skull substitutions. You've already seen the scenario tiers here. For tier 1, you see the ones for 2, 3, and 4, and those will be the options for each one of those tiers. So I think that's everything for the rules. And the campaign log, you've already seen it. I'm doing Black Widow with 9 hit points. And then for scenario 1, the Goblin Gimmicks. Oh, and scenario 1 is Risky Business. Okay, and then my handicap is 0. So I'm going to go ahead and get my decks set up and shuffled, and we'll start the first game. All right, so I've got everything shuffled up and set up. I've got the 2 threat on the hostile takeover that's supposed to be here. The criminal enterprise is in play. We have Norman Osborn on his side with 18 hit points, as you see over here. And this deck's been shuffled. Her deck's been shuffled. I've got her starting hand. And I can do my mulligan, but I actually like what I see. So I think I'm just going to keep what I have and go ahead and get started with the game. The first thing I'm going to do is put in target acquired with Dance of Death, and that's going to let me draw a card. All right, genius, good. Then I'm going to put in defensive stance with the power of protection to pay for that one. And then I'm going to put in her synth suit over here, and I'm going to pay with that with energy and genius. And let's move her over so that I can get my hit points on the screen. Okay. And so we'll go ahead and flip to Black Widow and thwart for 2 off of the main scheme to drop it to 7. And that's all we're going to do for her turn. So we're going to ready and then draw to 5. Okay, so start of the villain phase. We put 1 threat on the scheme. And with Norman Osborn, you may know, but if not, he doesn't attack, but instead he puts 1 infamy counter onto the criminal enterprise. So now I got 3, and I can't flip him, and I can't flip him to Green Goblin and attack him until I get these tokens off of criminal enterprise. So that's something I'm going to work towards for the game. But the card will be Hired Gun. All right, so he'll come over here with 3 hit points, and when revealed, choose to either give the villain 1 face down boost card or place 2 infamy counters on criminal enterprise. I'll just give him a boost card, and we'll worry about that whenever he gets it. But we are back to Black Widow. Okay, I think the first thing I'm going to do is put in her gauntlets over here with defensive stance, because I can only have 1 defensive stance in play anyway right now. So we'll do that, and I'm going to use her gauntlets to put in attack acrobatics. And I don't need 2 energy barriers, but I would like to have 1. So I'll probably discard 1 of those at the end of the turn. And I'm going to have her attack for 2 over here on the Hired Gun to drop him down to 1. And then we will ready and draw. I'm going to discard 1 of these energy barriers and draw to 5. Okay, so start of the main phase. 1 threat here. Again, he's supposed to attack, but he won't. So he'll put a threat on criminal enterprise. And now this Hired Gun will attack for 2. I'll just have Black Widow defend it. And so the encounter card will be Master Plan. So put 4 threat on each side scheme, and there's not 1, so I'm going to have to put a side scheme in play. So I'll discard cards until I get a side scheme. And let's see what we got here. I know there's going to be some. All right. Oops, coming. There we go. Payoff. It's just a card that puts that makes me deal an additional encounter card, and so we'll put that in, and we're back to Black Widow. And payoff came in with 2 threat on the scheme, And I forgot to ready my Black Widow's gauntlet, so I went ahead and did that. But Black Widow defended, so she's supposed to be exhausted. And we are back to Black Widow. All right, I really want to be able to get rid of that payoff side scheme. And Black Widow can't do it because she's exhausted. So I think I actually will put Lockjaw into play with the 4 resources I have. I hate to get rid of those, but this is just, I feel like what I need to do. So he's going to come in and thwart for 2, which will drop him down to 2 to get rid of this side scheme. And that's going to do it for her. So we'll ready and draw back to 5. Okay, so starting the main villain phase, 1 threat up here. So now it's at 3 out of 7. And he's supposed to attack, but he can't. So this is going to go up by 1. So now we got 5 on the criminal enterprise. The hired gun will attack. I'm not going to defend this time. Or actually, I will defend. And no, I'm not. I'm not going to defend because I want her to be able to stay up. I'll just have her take the damage. I don't want to use defensive stance either. And I don't want to use Lockjaw. So she'll just go from 9 to 7. And then the encounter card will be Goblin Glider. So we'll just attach to him. It'll give a +1 attack, which won't matter right now, but it will matter once we get to Green Goblin. So that was the encounter card. So we're back to Black Widow. And I'm going to use a momentum shift with strength to heal her 2. And then to actually deal 2 damage to Norman Osborn and take 2 of the Enterprise counters off. And then I'll have Lockjaw attack for 2. Actually to thwart for 2 on the main scheme to bring it back down to 1. I think it's probably the best way to handle that. And that will remove him from the game. And then Black Widow will attack for 2 to get rid of this hired gun and to finally get him out of the way. And then I'm going to use I'm going to put in Black Widow's gauntlet, her other gauntlet, with espionage. I'll hold on to defensive stance for now, I guess. Actually, I've already got one in place, so there's really no reason to keep that one. So I'll go ahead and discard that, and then I'll ready Black Widow and draw to 5. Okay, so beginning of the main villain phase, 1 threat up here on Hostile Takeover. Again, he will put a counter here on Criminal Enterprise, and there's no minions in play anymore. So the encounter card will be another Goblin Glider, which it says to attach the enemy with the highest printed. Oh, sorry about that. Attach the enemy with the highest printed hit points and without another Goblin Glider attached. If you can't, this card gains Surge. Well, he already has one, so this card's going to Surge. And I don't have Espionage in because I spent it to put another card in, the Black Widow's Gauntlet. Espionage would let her draw 2 cards on a Surge, but I don't get to do that. So it'll Surge into Gang Up. So he's supposed to attack, but he can't. So again, I'll have to put a counter on Criminal Enterprise, and we are back to Black Widow. And the first thing I'm going to do here is use her gauntlets to put in Grappling Hook, and that's going to give me 4 preparation cards. And the reason why that's important is because it will let me put in Winter Soldier for free. Okay, and he'll come into the game with 4 hit points. And then I'm going to put in Unflappable, I guess right here, with her energy barrier. And I'm going to hold on to Widow's Bite. And I'm not real worried about the scheme. I mean, I don't want it to go off, but I want to start taking off counters off Criminal Enterprise so I can do stuff. So I'm going to have Black Widow and Winter Soldier attack for 2. That's a total of 4. So that's going to take these off of here. And that'll do it. So I'll ready and draw her back to 5. Okay, so the beginning of the main villain phase, 1 threat up here. So it's going to go from 2 up to 3 out of 7. And if I do get an advance, I can always cancel it with a Grappling Hook. I forgot about that. So that's probably what I'll do. He's supposed to attack, but he can't. Because he's going to put a counter on Criminal Enterprise. He will attack, but that's what he does with his attack. And then the encounter card will be Pumpkin Bomb. So again, well, after the villain attacks, no, this wouldn't go off on Norman Osborn because instead of attacking, his force interrupt is when Norman Osborn would take any amount of, his force interrupt is when Norman Osborn would attack, place 2 infamy counters on Criminal Enterprise instead. So the pumpkin bombs, they only activate after he attacks, so they won't ever go off on his side, but they will go off on Green Goblin's side. But they won't go off right now because we're going over to Black Widow. And I think to start the phase, I'm going to go ahead and have Winter Soldier attack for 2 to take these 2 counters off, which will flip the State of Madness. And that's going to flip Norman Osborn over to Green Goblin. All right, and when Green Goblin flips, you deal 4 indirect damage to each player. And I'm just going to have all that damage go to Black Widow because I'm going to prevent 3 of it with his defensive stance. And so she will take a damage to drop her down to 8. And of course, I get to deal damage to him because of I used a card. I used a preparation card, so that's going to drop him to 17. All right, and then I'm going to use her Black Widow's Gauntlet, one of them, to put in the Widow's Bite right here. And then I'm going to use Clea to put in Safe House, and that's going to go over here. You can't really see it, but it's over here, kind of off camera. I'm going to have Black Widow attack for 2 to drop him down from 17 to 15. All right, and I've got a momentum shift and Mockingbird. I want to hold on to those. I might get to play 1 or 2 of them, hopefully. But I think that's it for her turn. Excuse me. So I'm going to ready and then draw her back up to 5. All right, and by the way, I forgot to put the counters on State of Madness. It comes in with 2, and they only come off if he schemes. There are other things that can take him off, but if an encounter card doesn't take it off, he will when he schemes. But he's not going to scheme because Black Widow is on her Black Widow side. So the start of the main phase, we go to 4 out of 7 now on Hostile Takeover, and now he is going to attack, and he's going to attack. Let me get this boost card out of here. He's going to attack for a bunch. He's going to attack for 5 plus this boost card and these 2 boost cards here. So it's going to be a total of 5, and she's going to defend, by the way. 6, 7. So a total of 7. All right. And I'm actually going to use her attack acrobatics to prevent 2 of that. So that's going to drop him from 15 to 13. I'm going to go ahead and hit him with her special ability to drop him down to 12. So I canceled the boost, and I canceled 1 boost, and the other boost was blank because it's an advance. So it's just going to be 5 to her 3, which is 2. And I do take damage, so I don't get to use Unflappable, unfortunately. But she will take 2 damage from 8 down to 6. But because I used a preparation card, I used my synth suit to ready her. And so now the encounter card will be Intimidation. Choose to either spend 2 resources of any type or give the villain 1 face down boost card. And by the way, I forgot to do the pumpkin bombs. After the villain attacks you, discard pumpkin bombs and take 2 indirect damage. I'll just have her take both of it. So that's going to drop her to 4. And now we're going to do Intimidation. Choose to either spend 2 resources of any type or give the villain 1 face down boost card. I'm going to give him a face down boost card. And so that's going to be it, though. And we will go back to Black Widow. So the first thing, Winter Soldier is going to attack for 2. And I think I'll have her go ahead. And I'm going to have her thwart for 2, actually. Drop this from 4 down to 2. But he attacked for 2. So that's going to put him at 10, from 12 to 10. And then I'm going to momentum shift with Mockingbird and Electrostatic Armor. So it's going to heal her 2 damage to 6 and deal 2 damage to him, which will drop him down to 8, 10 to 8. All right, and I got Covert Ops, which I'd like to hold on to, and Dance of Death, which I would like to hold on to. And I think I'll stay. Well, I don't know. She doesn't have any attack acrobatics, so I actually think I'll go ahead and flip to Natasha, and then I'll ready and draw up to 6. Okay, so start of the main phase, we go from 2 back up to 3, And then he's supposed to scheme, but he won't scheme. So when Green Goblin would scheme, remove 1 madness counter from State of Madness. So I'll do that. And the encounter card will be at Oscore Manufacturing. When revealed, place an additional 1 threat here. So it will come into the game with 3 threat, and it has an acceleration token. All right, but that's not too bad. Could have been worse. Could have been an advance that moved the main scheme, but it won't move the main scheme. And we are back to Natasha. And to start with her, I'm going to have her heal for 3, back up to 9. I'm going to use a gauntlet to put in attack acrobatics, which will let her draw a card. Okay, a target acquired. And then I'm going to use Safe House to go and get, I know there's a grappling hook in here somewhere. I think it was towards the bottom, yes. I'm going to put that back into my hand with a Safe House and use the other Black Widow's gauntlet and a target acquired to put that into play. So it's going to be over here off screen as well, but it's in the game. And then I want to put in Nick Fury. So let's see, I need to make room for him. I'm going to put in Nick Fury, got a lot of cards coming into the game. He's going to come in with the other 4 resources that I have. And when he does, he's going to deal his 4 damage and then attack for 2, which will be 6. So 8 down to 2. And by the way, he comes in with 3 hit points, but because he attacked, he'll have 2 hit points. And then I'm going to have Winter Soldier with his last damage, a thwart for 2 on the main scheme to drop it from 3 down to 1. I don't want to flip him just yet to Green Goblin, but I am going to flip Natasha over to Black Widow, and then I'll ready, and I'll draw up to 5, but I don't have enough cards for that. Let me ready everything. I only got 2 cards left, so I'm going to have to deal myself an encounter card, and I'll shuffle up her deck, draw back up, and then we will move to the villain phase. Okay, so at the start of the villain phase, we're actually going to put 2 on there because of the acceleration, so it goes from 1 up to 3. And she is going to attack. I forgot to ready Nick Fury, but it's okay. He can stay down like that because he's going to be taking this in the face. So it's going to be 5. And then I got 2 boost cards I got to deal with. 5. There's an advance. Good. So don't have to worry about the advances. And that's blank. So just 5 damage. And so he'll leave the game. And he'll still stay State of Madness. But I do have to deal with 2 encounter cards. The first one is Collapsing Bridge. It'll come in with 2, and it has a crisis icon. I'll put that up here. So a couple of side schemes that she's going to have to deal with now. And then the other one will be Caught Off Guard. Discard an upgrade or support you control. If no cards were discarded this way, this card gains Surge. I'll just have the grappling hook cancel that so I can at least deal the damage to him. So that's going to drop him from 2 to 1, and we will be back to Black Widow. And I think the first thing I'll do with Black Widow is have her thwart for 2 to get rid of this side scheme that just came in, so I can get stuff off of the main scheme if I need to. And then I'm going to put in Energy Barrier over here with the Power of Protection. That's going to come in with 3 counters, and then I'll use a Black Widow's Gauntlet to put in a Widow's Bite over here. I'm going to hold on to these 2 resources, ready her, and draw back to 5. Okay, so at the start of the villain phase, we put 2 on there, so it's going to go from 3 up to 5, and he's still a Green Goblin, but he only has 1 hit point left. I'm about to change that, I think, because I do have an attack acrobatics, and she will defend this. So he's going to attack for 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to eliminate. I'm going to cancel those and knock him back to. It's going to put 3 damage back onto him, which will cause him to move to a side 3. And when Norman Osborn would attack, well, I actually got to flip him to Green Goblin, sorry. When revealed, deal 4 damage to each player, which means she does have to take this. So it's going to be from 9 to 5. Okay. And, so he'll come back in with 20 hit points or 22 hit points. Now, so the attack acrobatics knocked him over to this side. And then after you trigger the ability of a preparation card you control, deal 1 damage to an enemy. And so I'm going to do that now. I'll drop him to 21. So his attack was 5 to 3. And then, of course, energy barrier, when you would take any amount of damage, remove 1 reflection counter from here, prevent 1 of that damage, and deal 1 damage to an enemy. So I'm going to remove a reflection counter and deal a damage to him. So now that goes from 5 to 3 to 4 to 3. She will take the damage, which drops her down to 4. So all of that, basically, the attack acrobatics knocked the 3 boost cards back into her, the boost icons back into Green Goblin. He flipped, but then her 1 damage happens after you trigger the ability of a preparation card. That's why I dropped him to 21. Then when she took the damage, the counter came off to drop him to 20. And then she was at 5. Now she's at 4 because it was 4 attack to 3 defense. And then because I used a preparation card, we used Synth Suit to ready her. So I know that was confusing, but I hope it makes sense because that's how it works. And so now we're going to be going into the encounter phase. And that is all in a day's work. When revealed, place 2 infamy counters on Criminal Enterprise. If you cannot, remove 2 madness counters from State of Madness. And I think I'm actually going to cancel that with Grappling Hook. So that will deal another damage to him down to 19. And because I don't want him to flip just yet. I'm kind of happy where he's at. And now I will go back to Black Widow. So back to Black Widow. The first thing I want to do is use a Covert Ops with Genius and Energy Barrier. Those 3 resources to remove 4 threat from his scheme and confuse him. All right, and then I'm going to put in, and then I'm going to flip, go ahead and flip to Natasha, and defensive stance, put in the defensive stance with the power of protection, and that's going to allow her to draw a card. Now, the reason why, I didn't really need to confuse him because the scheme is just going to take the madness counter off. I really wanted to thwart, is why I did that with as much as I could and flip so I could heal. But when he goes to scheme on her side, the confuse will actually come off instead of the madness counter. So that's how that'll work. Again, I kind of wasting on confuse, but I wanted to thwart more than anything so that I could flip over. And in case something does happen where a threat gets put on here, it won't move the main scheme. So while I'm at Natasha, I'm going to heal for 3, from 4 back up to 7. Okay. And then I'm going to use the safe house to pull out a grappling hook because I want to put one into play using her 2 gauntlets. And I've already drawn the card for this turn, so I don't get to do that. And that's pretty much all that she can do. So I'm going to ready everything and then draw her up to 6. Okay, so start of the main villain phase, put 2 on because the acceleration token is going to go up to 3. And as I said, he would normally take this State of Madness token off, but the confuse will trigger first because status cards always trigger first from what I understand from the rules. So that's going to come off. And then this shouldn't be in advance. They were both in the discard pile. The encounter card is a private security specialist. And he just comes in. He's basically just a guard. So I'm going to have to deal with him and get him out of the way before I can keep attacking Green Goblin. So he's going to be a little pest for me. But that's okay. We'll deal with him. And I am back to Natasha. And the first thing I'm going to do is use one of her gauntlets to put in an attack acrobatics. And that will let her draw a card. And then I'm going to use the safe house to pull out another grappling hook that I have in here. Put that in her hand. And then I'll use a gauntlet and lockjaw, I guess, to put in that grappling hook, and I'll put it up over here because I'm running out of space right in front of me. I got a lot of cards back out in the game now. Okay, and then I'm going to flip to Black Widow, and I'm going to play a momentum shift using Mockingbird and Brother Voodoo to pay for that. So that's going to heal her back up to 9 and deal 2 damage to this private security guard or specialist. And then I'll go ahead and I'll actually thwart for 2, I think, on the main scheme to drop it from 3 back down to 1, just to be so we can be safe there as possible. Then I want to put in an electrostatic armor over here, and hopefully don't forget about it with energy barrier. So every time I defend against an attack, I deal 1 damage to the attacking character, which will be Green Goblin for the first time anyway. And so that's going to be it. I'm going to ready and draw her up to 5. Okay, so we got a lot of stuff on the board, and we're going to continue on. This goes from 1 up to 3 because of this Oscorp manufacturing that's still in the game. He is going to attack for 5, but she's going to defend this. So it's going to be 5, 6. So let's see the boost. Place 1 infamy counter on Criminal Enterprise if you cannot remove 1 madness counter from State of Madness. Okay. Well, I can't use attack acrobatics to you know, cancel this boost icon because it's an attack and there's a guard in play. But I don't want to remove a State of Madness counter. I think I will use a target acquired to cancel the boost. And so that's going to cancel that boost effect. It won't remove the Madness counter, and it will deal, I'll have to deal 1 damage to this private security specialist. So he's attacking for 5, 6 onto her. All right, and so that would be 3 damage, but I'm going to use an energy barrier counter to prevent 1 of that and knock out this private security specialist. So that's going to drop it from 4, 5, just 5 to 3, and that's going to be 2 damage, dropping her from 9 to 7. And then I'll use my synth suit to ready her so she can be ready for anything else that comes. Oh, and then after you defend against an attack, deal 1 damage to the attacking character. And I can do that because that is not an attack. So it doesn't matter that, that the guard was in play. He will take the damage from the electrostatic armor over there. So that's going to drop him down to 18. And I did just see this defensive stance. I could have prevented 2 of that damage, but I'll hold on to it for something else. I think I'm okay for now. So that's the attack. The specialist is gone, so he won't attack. And the encounter card will be a hired gun. So I'm going to use this Widow's Bite to, so when revealed, choose to either give the villain 1 face down boost card or place 2 infamy counters on Criminal Enterprise. Now, that does happen. I do have to give him, I will give him a boost card because Widow's Bite does not trigger until after a minion enters play. So he gets revealed, enters play, does his thing to either face 1 face down boost card or 2 infamy counters on Criminal Enterprise, which it's not anyway. And then I'm going to use Widow's Bite to hit him for 2 damage plus the 1 from her. So that's going to actually knock him out of the game. So I don't have to worry about any more minions. And that's going to do it for the villain phase. And we're back over to Black Widow. And I think what I'm going to do here with her is I really would like to use this Dance of Death, but he's going to be attacking for a lot. So I don't really want him to actually attack this time. So I'm going to put in Iron Fist. Put him in right here using these other 4 resources. And he'll come in the game with 3 hit points. All right. And then with 2 of his Mystic counters. And then he will attack. He's going to attack Green Goblin for 2. And then I'll remove a counter for 1 more for a total of 3, which will also stun him. So now he's down from 18 to 15. And then Black Widow will thwart for 2 off the main scheme, dropping it down to 1 just to try to keep that under control the best I can. And that's going to be it. So I'm going to ready everything and draw back up to 5. Okay, so before we move to the villain phase, I forgot to drop Iron Fist down from 3 to 2. I did that. And then the hostile takeover, as it has been pretty much the whole game, it feels like, He goes from 1 back up to 3 because we still have this side scheme in. He's supposed to attack, but he won't because he's stunned. And then the encounter card getting low on the deck. I'm about to get an acceleration token. But anyway, maybe I can beat him before that happens. We'll see. The encounter card is a private security specialist. All right, so I'm going to use a Widow's Bite to deal with him. So I'm going to hit him for 3. So he will come in with 1 damage, and he will be stunned because of the Widow's Bite. And we are back to Black Widow. Okay, so I do have Winter Soldier in my hand. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 preparation cards. So he'll be able to come in for free. So he'll come in with 4 hit points. I'm going to use him to attack for 2. To get rid of, drop him from 4 down to 3. To get rid of this private security specialist, because I want to be able to attack Green Goblin. I know he was stunned, but he was a guard. So now he's out of the way. And the first thing I'm going to do is attack with Dance of Death using these 3 resources. And that's going to put all 6 damage onto Green Goblin. 15 down to 9. All right, so we'll put Dance of Death out. So he's got 9 hit points left. Then I'm going to use Iron Fist to attack for basically 3, 2, and then remove this mystic counter, 1 more to stun him. And so he's going to deal a total of basically 3 damage from 9 down to 6. And then Black Widow will attack for 2 from 6 down to 4. So hopefully I'll be able to get him before this moves to the next phase and before he flips back to Norman Osborn, but we'll see. But for now, we're going to ready and draw to 5. Okay, and she does not have enough cards to get to 5, so she'll have to deal herself an encounter card, and we will shuffle up the deck and finish drawing her up. Okay, so I shuffled the deck, drew back up to 5. We're ready to go. This is going to go from 3 up to 5, and he's stunned, so he won't attack. And then I'm going to have to deal with 2 encounter cards. That's going to put an acceleration token on. Let me find one. That's going to put it on the main scheme. And I'll shuffle the encounter deck. It may not matter. I think I'm going to win on my next turn. But if one of these are a guard, it will delay things. Okay, so reshuffle the deck, and I did put an acceleration token on. And let's see. Hopefully we won't have a guard come out. This one is going to be Mad Genius. Discard the top card of your deck for each infamy counter on Criminal Enterprise. Oh, that's if Norman Osborn. Green Goblin. Green Goblin attacks the hero with the fewest hit points remaining. I'm just going to cancel that with grappling hook, one of my grappling hooks. So that's going to drop her down to 3, drop him down to 3. Then the other one is going to be Pumpkin Bombs, just an attachment. He won't even get a chance to use it because we are back to Black Widow. Winter Soldier is going to attack for 2, and Black Widow is going to attack for 2 for 4, and that's all we need, and that's enough to defeat him. And so that is Black Widow Protection, defeating Green Goblin Risky Business on Expert with the Goblin Gimmicks modular set. So let's go back to the mini-series rules. Let's go back to the mini-series rules, and I'll show you what happens when you do the victory condition. All right, so let's look at the victory conditions for the game 1 of this mini-series. It says to add the topmost villain attachment in the encounter discard pile to the campaign log for the just played scenario. And then if there are none in the discard pile, discard cards from the encounter deck until one is discarded and add that card to the campaign log. If no villain attachments were discarded this way, randomly add a villain attachment currently in play to the campaign log. Well, unfortunately, I cleaned up my area before I came to this, so I'm not real sure how my discard pile was done. So just keep that in mind if you're playing through this mini-series, that you want to make sure you do this first step before you clean up your area. But the good news is there were some villain attachments that were in play, the Pumpkin Bombs and the Goblin Glider. So I'll include one of these. This isn't the way the rules are set it. Again, I was supposed to be discarding cards or the top card of the discard pile. And like I said, I'm not sure what that was because I've cleaned up. But I think it's okay if I put one of these. And so no matter what the modular set is, one of these two cards will go in to game 2 into the encounter deck of whoever the villain is for game 2. So let me shuffle these up real quick, and we will put in the Goblin Glider. So I'll put that in the campaign log. Okay, and so it says to put the attachment for the just played scenario. So I'll put it under number 1, the Goblin Glider. Okay. And then we'll go back over to the victory. And then it says that was step number 1. Number 2, randomly select a new scenario from tier 1 higher. So it'll be tier 2. And then a random modular set. I'm going to do that at the beginning of the next game, actually, because I don't want to know until I get ready to play the next game. So in the next video, before I start playing, we'll actually do step 2 of the victory. Step 3, after the first scenario, each player may choose one of the tech upgrades from the Hydra campaign set and add it to their deck in the campaign log. All right, well, these are the tech upgrades that I can get. And you may recognize these from the campaign if you played it. The laser cannon. They're all setup cards, but I'll tell you how it works actually in the next game when you go into the next scenario. But the laser cannon, you can discard and remove it from the campaign log to deal 5 damage to the villain and each enemy engaged with you. The adrenal stems is you should be able to see, discard this card and remove it from the campaign log, ready your hero and heal 5 damage. And then the tactical scanner lets you basically do the same thing for the cost as the other two, but you draw 5 cards for the benefit. And then the emergency teleporter, you discard and remove from the campaign. And then you can search your deck and discard pile for an ally, put it into play, and give it a tough status card. Well, I've used emergency teleporter in a Rise of the Red Skull campaign, so I'm not going to play with that one, I think. And I'm currently, as you can see, it's sleeved. I'm using this in an expert campaign for Rise of the Red Skull that I have for Iron Man, and I'm in the middle of it. So I don't want to use this one either, since I've already used it. I haven't used one of these two yet, and I think laser cannon will work out good at some point in the mini-series. So I think that's what I'm going to go with, is laser cannon. So I will add that to my campaign log. All right, so as you see up there, the tech upgrade is going to be the laser cannon. Oops. I spelled it wrong at first, but now it's spelled correctly, laser cannon. Now we'll go back to the victory. And step 4 just tells you what to do after the second scenario, which is you put in a basic condition. I'll talk about that in the second scenario. Step 5 tells you a third scenario. And we've already looked at number 6 to record a handicap of 0 in the campaign log for the next scenario. So I will do that. And so the handicap, which will go down here, this is the second one, it will be a 0 because I did win. All right, and that's going to do it for game 1 of the mini-series, and I hope you enjoyed the playthrough. If you did, please consider to like and subscribe, and make sure you hit the notification bell because I will be doing a game 2 at some point, and also Ant-Man's coming out soon, and I'm going to be doing some playthroughs with him, so you're going to want to be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll know when those games are coming out, those playthroughs are coming out. And until they do, I'll save you a seat at the table. Good night.